Hello and welcome back to another video for IGCSE Physics, where we are going to do some revision for paper 6. We are going to discuss some tips for solving graph questions accurately. That is basically a 4-mark question, but sometimes there's an addition 2 marks for solving for the gradient. If this video helped you, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. Let's solve. Starting with labeling each axis accurately, you have to write quantity, the right quantity on the right axis with a unit, right? And there's an example for that in which you have to draw a graph for resistance versus length, resistance on the y-axis while the length on the x-axis. So you have to write the physical quantity with their unit. You have to take a suitable scale, like it should be at least half of the x-axis and half of the y-axis. Like more than that, it should not be less than half of the x-axis on either side. This is not recommended. This is the perfect one. Like that's covering half of the x-axis, at least half of the y-axis. Then we should move towards taking the suitable scale. So for that, the first step is take a uniform plotting. You can see that non-uniform plotting is not recommended. That's on the left side, while the one on the right side is the uniform plotting, and that's the recommended way. And then, like the very important thing is that you have to take a readable scale. That scale that must be of 1, 2, 5, 10, or 20. That's preferred one. You should be avoiding taking the multiples of 3, 7, 11, 13 because they are not easily readable. Okay, the one on the left side is recommended one. The values are middle values and they are easily readable. These values are not readable on the x-axis. You have to start your graph not necessarily from the 0, 0, but as per the given conditions of the examiner, right? Sometimes this happens that you are given with the values of 89 to 170 and the examiner do not force you to start that 0, 0. Then you may start at 80, that near about 89, okay? For example, we are given with this table and you have to draw a graph between length and the resistance. So that's a suitable scale for that. First of all, I would recommend to take a range, okay? See the range for the values from 1.5 to 8.3. So you may start at 0 and goes to 10. So that's the easy way to write your values on the y-axis here. And then for the length, it's very easy to start at 0, 0 and go with the range of 20 to 100. Okay, 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100. While plotting the points, you need to remember at least these 3 points. Like make sure all points are plotted. Plotted points must be accurate to better than 1/2 of a small square of the graph. Great. Draw the graph with thin or sharp pencil. You can see at the image, like all the 5 points are plotted, okay, and plotted up to accuracy of half of the small grid. Okay. The next step is drawing the best fit line. Okay. The examiner will tell you like you have to draw a best fit line or the curve of best fit. What is the best fit line? It is a balanced line that has equal number of points above and below it. And that's the example for that. Like it's passing through some of the points, but equal number of points are on either side. Let's take the best example for that. For the same graph that we were plotting from the start. So you can see that's passing through 3 points and the other 2 points are equidistant from it. Like this is below it and this is above it, right? That's the best example for best fit line. Now, if the examiner asks you to draw a gradient, so what you have to do? There are some steps that you need to follow. Like first of all, you have to take 2 points that are present on the line, and you have to take the distance between these 2 points must be like half of the drawn line. Okay, that's the very essential. And after that, taking those 2 points, draw a dotted triangle to show which points you have taken. Okay, sometimes there's 1 mark allotted for that. Okay, that's the best example for taking the gradient on your best fit line. The gradient accepted, like points are marked, dotted triangle is made, points cover at least 50% of the drawn line, and it's preferred like you mention your coordinates of the points, okay, being as x1, y1, x2, y2, so that you may calculate the gradient by taking the equation that we will mention at the end, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But the gradients that are not acceptable are those in which you are taking the points. These are not covering like more than half of the line. Okay, this is the example for that. Some students may take these 2 points, but they are not covering at least half of the line, so that gradient is not acceptable at all. You may not be awarded any single mark for this attempt. And that's the equation for taking gradient y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1 that can be used or that will be used for calculating the gradient. A perfect example for this, like all the 4 steps that we have done so far, starting from taking the variables, like labeling the axis along with their unit, and taking the appropriate scale, choosing like using at least half the grid, and then plotting all the points up to half of the small scale, and then drawing a line of best fit from which the points are equidistant on both sides. That's another perfect example for that. You may stop the video here and do the practice for this question. Sometimes we may be asked to fill in the tables. Okay, there are some marks related to those. So for that, the important things are starting with the column headings, in which you have to mention the quantity along with the unit. For example, the G distance with the unit centimeter or the relevant unit. In the question, sometimes it's millimeter for the spring one question. All the readings must have same numbers of decimal places. Like you can see, this one is not acceptable, in which all the readings are not with the same decimal places. And this one is a recommended one. Like you have to take the values for the same decimal places. Same as for the significant figures. Like the first one is the perfect one that's accepted, in which all the values are having the same number of significant figures, while the second one is not accepted at all. Let's take the example for that. Like, for example, that was a table given to us in which you have to put the value for this 1.2 here, and you have to calculate R by taking V by I, and I was given in the previous question 0.34. So you may think like you may take that V was with the minimum number of significant figures 2, so you have to write R in the number of significant figures. There's another example. Sometimes the other values are given, like these are in 2 number of significant figures, they are here in 2 number of significant figures, 2 number of significant figures, and these were missing. So those which were missing, you have to write as per the same number of decimal places or the number of significant figures. That's a very important thing. Sometimes you may lose a mark here. Okay. For example, if we calculated it here and we are getting 1.51162, we will be writing it as 1.5 into number of significant figures. That's a very important thing. Okay. Okay, that's another example for a graph with a gradient on. Okay, you can see that the axes are labeled, the scale is suitable on either side, the points are plotted, all the points are plotted, the line is best fit, like the points are on either side of the line, and the gradient is taken and mentioned with a right triangle. There's another example for that. You may stop the video here, you may see and you may attempt the same question. See, all the 4 things or like the 5 things that we have discussed so far in this video, they are mentioned here, even though the gradient from the same method like y2 minus y1 over x minus x1, and the points are mentioned here as well. I recommend that mention your points here as well, like coordinates here, so that it's easy for you to work out. All right, with that, we are ending today's video. I hope you understand today's topic. And if you have any queries, you can mention in the comments below. Do not miss to like and subscribe the video. All right, thank you so much. Have a good day.